right, it's 8:30. Mind if I play the bongos? All right, enough for the bongos. Hey, sorry for the late start. I just had things going on. I just couldn't do it. I could have, but I couldn't. So it's one of those things. I could have, but I couldn't. So anyways, thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here. Let me remind you that trading's risky, not appropriate for everyone. Your past performance, good or bad, is not necessarily indicative of future results. Please stay small, stay humble, focus on the long term. Never risk money you cannot afford to lose. Hello, my name is Wayne McDonell. I'm a currency trader just like you, so I'm here to share. I got like what? Wow, I look like a mess today. I got like 20 years of experience or something like that. So I can just share the good, the bad, and the ugly. Maybe you can learn something. Maybe you can not step on a couple of landmines like I had to. Whoa, full screen. So anyways, so I'm here to share. Why not? I'm trying to buy my way into Forex heaven. Sorry, got to get the mic all good. So ask questions, get involved. We'll see what I can share. Maybe it'll be technical analysis. Maybe it'll be fundamentals. Just a heads up in case you're not from America. It's a short week, Thursday and Friday. There's no live stream. The markets are going to be dead. Americans are on vacation, thanking Native Americans for the free land that they were given. So we call it Thanksgiving. They're like, oh, look at all this free land. All right. So anyways, Thanksgiving. So you got to be careful. What could that mean? Well, there's another thing that a lot of Americans do. They take Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday off. So they call their boss and they're like, I want 3 days of vacation. So that means they get Friday off, Saturday off, which is just the weekend we just had. Then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off, then Thursday off, then Friday off, then Saturday and Sunday. And it'll only cost them 3 days of vacation. So, wow. So you got to be careful about that. So what does that mean? Well, we will probably have unusual volume and trading activity. Maybe it'll be more, maybe it'll be less. But the thing is, expect not the usual, whatever that means. So additional risk in the market this week. So again, some traders might want to get a whole bunch of trades on really quickly because of vacation coming up, or maybe people throttle back and say, we'll do it next week. Okay? So anyways, got to state that. Ask questions, get involved. I'll do my best to address your questions. Someone got mad the other day because I didn't answer their question. Well, son, there could be, 100, 200 people in the room, and it takes you 5 seconds to ask a question. It takes me 5 minutes to answer it. And meanwhile, there's lots of chat going on. So if I don't see it, it's not because I hate you. It's not because I'm avoiding you. It's not because I don't like you. Hang on. Just patience, man. Patience. I'm doing my best. So I am here to serve. Maybe ask again. Maybe ask 10 times. But treat each other with dignity and respect. Cool. With that, one of the things that I recommend that you do to improve your trading is open an account at Tradersway.com. Why? I have found personally their execution speed is faster. I tested it, 5 years ago. But I tested it using third-party software, and it's nearly the fastest out of like 30 or 40 Forex brokers that were tested. It was, in the top 5 or 6 as far as execution speed. Now, the big giant broker you might have an account with now, they're usually the slowest because what they do is they put all 200,000 of their clients on one server, and it's just slow. Okay? What else? The fees are competitive, whether you do ECN, fixed account, or variable spreads. The fees, the honest fees, are competitive. Maybe not the cheapest, but you don't want the cheapest because they probably make their money back slipping you. So I wouldn't want the cheapest, okay? But you want reliable. That's what Tradersway does, right? They actually pay you your full swaps. Many brokers, and I've mentioned this, I just checked out one of the big brokers out of London just because I knew somebody that needed some help, and that's the broker they were using. And while I was in the account, I said, "Oh, I'll check out the swaps on this big British, broker," and they charge negative swaps on both sides. I'm like, okay, so you actually get paid your due swaps. So thank you, Tradersway. But of course, the most important thing is Tradersway has above average good-looking people. Of course, that's the most important thing. So, Tradersway.com. Let's get on with it. Let's see what we got going on today. One of the things you could do right here at Forex.Today is you can see the pound is the strongest. Okay. And you can see yen is the weakest currently. And dollar is somewhat positive, but pretty close to neutral. Wait, I circled the wrong one. Sorry. I was doing it and then thinking about something else. There we go. Okay, so anyways, dollar's kind of neutral-ish, a little strong, but giving some back. Pound is quite strong relative to everybody for many days, but has given some back. And yen is generally weak. Very cool, right? So you might think of like pound, yen. That seems to be the best one. Okay, pound Swissy maybe. All right, so not a complete picture, but a picture. Okay, a picture. The thing you might want to look at right away is dollar and yen, for example. Cool. So thank you, Forex.Today. Let's go to the calendar. Okay, take a look at what's going on in the world. Okay, German GDP. Sure, we want to see how the biggest economy, and by the way, that's tomorrow. Okay. Okay, we get to see some economic activity out of the largest economy in Europe, on mainland Europe. Great, that's going to be important. Okay, then we get some data out of Great Britain. Great, fine, great. Some speeches, great. Oh, RBA speeches. That's interesting. But what's the big event? What's the big event? RBNZ. Okay. Rumor on the street is that they're raising interest rates. Is it true or not? I don't know. But that's what's in play. You may have noticed that Aussie has looked like this for several weeks, and NZD has looked like this for several weeks. So Aussie's probably going to continue down, and Kiwi is probably going to continue up, depending on whether they raise or not. Okay. Korea, too. Korea is likely to raise interest rates. Okay? And NZD is likely to raise interest rates. That's what's going on. Nothing's right, I'm told. Okay? That's what's going on. Doesn't matter, Sangam. Number 2 don't matter none. Okay? You're either first or you're last. Okay? So you see that? That's big, 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 big. Wednesday out of the U.S., durable goods, PCE. FOMC meeting minutes. So Wednesday's huge. I don't think for a pop, maybe a PCE. But we are interested, like, are people still buying fridges even though you have to wait 6 months or actually more? I had to wait longer than 6 months for a fridge, and I ended up just buying a floor room. I found a showroom in North Carolina, and do you have one? Do you have one of these on the floor? And he's like, yeah, I got it on the floor. Boom, here's too much money. Send it to me. Cool, right? By the way, I sold my old fridge, and an entrepreneur came out, and he was starting a restaurant, and he used my my pre-owned fridge as a commercial fridge in his kitchen. I thought, cool, man. So I said, I'll come out and visit. I'm going to go check out his restaurant. Cool. And that's it. And you see, like, that's it. Okay? That's it. Wednesday's it. It's over after that. Luis says, hey, there's going to be an announcement. Okay. Here's how to look at it simply. I've already explained 2 or 3 times, right, the difference between Brainard and Powell. So I'm not going to explain that again. I mean, I've done it 2 or 3 times. Great. So with all that known, what also matters? Okay. If Powell is reaffirmed, nothing changes. And that is certainty. Okay? If Brainard is put in, something might change. Now, I've already explained what would change, so I'm not going to do that again. But the thing is, what would change? Well, we don't actually know. Maybe nothing. But it doesn't matter whether it's nothing or something. It's uncertainty. Okay? The biggest thing here is markets do not like uncertainty. So a changing of the guard is generally bad. Risk off. Okay? Any explanation for the 20-year bull and bear cycle? It's not 20 years, so you got that wrong. I did a macroeconomics course, so maybe join FX Bootcamp and I don't know, learn about that. Okay. Cool. So anyways, short week. Maybe nobody trades this week, or maybe, right, they trade and then it stops. Okay. So again, uncertainty is bad for the market, but go back and watch some of the other videos. I've clearly described what is likely to change. Now, if I were to guess, is it okay if I guess? This isn't research. This is a guess. Do you want to hear my guess? Or should I just move on? Because usually I don't care about people's guesses, but I can give you a guess if it somehow brings you solitude. Yeah? Okay. Powell stays. Okay. Brainard gets promoted to vice chair of the Board of Governors on the banking chair of the Banking Oversight Committee. Okay. So Powell stays. Brainard gets promoted and specifically in charge of bank regulations. Is that specific? Chances is the macroeconomic course. I think I left it with 1 or 2 undone. I just... life. Okay. Cool. And the interesting thing about this is it satisfies enough people politically. Cool. Oh, my pleasure. All right. So now looking here, look, pound is strong, yen is weak. Oh, we already knew that. What's going on? Nothing's right. I'm torn. Okay, so let's get on with it. Okay, I like this. This makes me very, very happy. What do we see? We see that we've bottomed out on a key price. Went up as it should. Okay, great. So bulls have a chance. We're now in a bearish sell zone with bearish price action. Okay, so if you're a bear, you would probably expect this. Bulls have already done their job. Bears need to wake up. Okay. Now the big question here is what happens to Aussie if New Zealand raises rates or if New Zealand doesn't raise rates? What happens to Aussie? Interesting, right? Could be one of those weird things where maybe Aussie continues down and Kiwi is up. Okay, so you could do the relative strength play if that's what you want to do. Okay, so bears, you got get ready, do your job. Bulls, you might want to start bringing your stops in because bears are going to show up as they should. Okay, this is interesting. Much different than that other chart we just saw in the Aussie. And this is still our buy zone. It's still technically bearish. We're actually technically bearish to neutral because we're at the fair market value. Okay? And what are we waiting for? We're waiting for the RBNZ. That's why it's held up here. Okay? Now you'll see that it looks like we're caught here, which kind of looks like a pivot point, but that's not a pivot point. This is the support I highlighted way over here a long time ago. And used to be resistance, now support. So I dragged it across. The actual pivot point's down here, M2. Interesting, huh? So whether this goes down or not, I don't know. But what's interesting is the market's behaving as it should. Okay? Good. So it's right as rain. Right? The way I look at this is it's sort of like, how about this? It's a terrible place to short and it's a terrible place to buy. Because it's not the right time to buy, and you would be selling near bullish support. So, I don't know, whatever. All right, so again, I look left here. My Sharona, right? Cool. So it would be great as a bull, and now we have a double touch. Be very interesting to get some upward play. Not that it will. Remember, I'm never kind of guessing on the future. What I'm suggesting is if, then. Okay? And I'm telling you, a double bottom. Do you guys remember when I drew this? Okay? A long time ago, and the interesting thing is it's, of course, monthly M2. And now we have really something that resembles a reversal pattern, but on the exact price. And we knew this price, way up here. So interesting, right? So now, okay, depends on how far out you look. Okay, now you wouldn't see that on a 15-minute chart. Okay. But we got on a daily chart, we got a 5-8 cross here. And yes, the 21 and the 55 are it's above. So technically on this time frame, it's still bullish. And this was technically sort of an entry. And of course, in my book, what I say, after a fresh 5-8 cross, well, actually, after a fresh 21.55 cross, so it's not quite, but you come back and you catch the next one at the 8, which is interesting. So what we don't know is, will it do this next? And if it does, it could be a very interesting entry or confirmation. Or you might argue, well, Wayne, this is just a corrective wave or something. Like, no, maybe. But I'm looking at it from different points of view than that, okay? One of the things, of course, is I'm looking at seasonality. So I wouldn't mind this going from 153 to 150, 160 maybe in December. I'm already kind of prepping for next month, okay? Many of these trades are just in my sort of opening strategy, if you will. November is just starting for me, which is weird because usually we're front running. In this case, I've been waiting. My November might just be starting, which throws a lot of people off, but that's okay. Now, right here, technically this euro-yen became bearish and has not turned even remotely bullish. See, a bull would have thought, maybe here, never got it. Maybe here, never got it. Okay? This, never liked those. So the next one is like way down here. But ultimately, what's going to happen is you need everything with a yen on it to go up, and maybe euro will stabilize. Okay? Now, why is euro so weak? Let's just simplify it. Mr. Sangham says, buy at Thanksgiving and take profit in Christmas. Maybe. Okay? But remember, this year is still not a normal year because of COVID. It's providing so many strange twists compared to, let's say, a normal year. COVID is abnormal. It's not normal supply and demand economics, is it? So, so the lockdown in Austria, what if it gets worse? I mean, Austria's not the biggest economy, and nor is it number 2. But the thing is, it's a red flag. It's like, it's not good for business. And then right? So what happens next is, what if? And whenever you're talking about a market that's thinking, what if? What if it gets worse? What if there's more shutdowns? Okay. What if Belarus is next? The big what if. That's not good for business. Okay. So anyways, yeah, well, that's that. So what we've figured out probably over the last 25 years of our big Euro experiment is that socialist capitalism is less effective in some ways than a different type of capitalism. But you remember, it's not a good or a bad. There's a social construct where society and government form a decision on how to manage society, and you make a decision on, I don't know, this, that, or the other thing. But decisions are made. And, you know, how do we gather excess resources and distribute it to those that lack resources, let's say? All governments do it. That's why you have a government, okay? And the decision is, well, if you take a lot from the rich and give it to the poor, there's a consequence to that. If you take very little from the rich and not give it to the poor, there's a consequence to that. Okay, there's just consequences. So it's not good or bad. It's a decision-making tree, and you make your decision based on what you want. And with the form of capitalism in Europe, typically what you have is persistently high unemployment. But you might have cheap education and healthcare, for example. So the consequence of that is high unemployment. Okay? Whatever. Okay? Okay? Oh, did I get Danny all going? Sorry, Danny, if I did. So the thing is, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but there is a difference where Europe has now entered, has definitely lost 10 years, probably more, because it wasn't doing good before the 2008 financial crisis, never really covered from the 2008 financial crisis and Greek debt and this, that, and the other thing. Now we're going into COVID and all that kind of stuff. So that's all. Okay. So as an economist, all I'm saying is the recovery and the response to COVID seems to be slower in Europe, but typically what's happened in Europe has moved to the United States as well. So, yeah, losing Austria may not be sort of economically that impactful, but it's the what if that's economically impactful. Okay, so let's look at this for a second. If Europe faces COVID troubles this winter, is that good for CAD yen or bad for CAD yen? CAD yen up or CAD yen down? CAD yen down. Less demand for energy, less demand for commodities, less flowed. I mean, that's it. The other thing is, now Japan is entering the deal where Japan is going to pull from their SPR. Japan, which imports 100% of their GDP, goes toward oil imports. So they don't like high oil prices. So now Japan, the United States, and China are going to tap their SPR, drive down oil prices. Okay, well, that brings this down too. Okay? Besides that, what do we know? We're still technically in a buy zone, but fundamentally things have changed, okay? Okay. Darko says, hey, maybe it's enough with the COVID vaccines and stuff and just move on with Christmas. Well, yeah, again, I think I look at things non-politically. And I've never had a flu vaccine. When I get asked, I say, no, I'm Canadian, that's fine. And they're like, what do you mean? Oh, I don't get the flu. They look at me like... But I don't see, I don't see people around me dying of the flu. I don't know anyone that's died of the flu. I know people that have died of COVID in my community. Oh, is that right, Milos? Yay, I was right. Look at me. Now wait for Brainard to get the vice chair. Cool. So I do know people that have died of COVID, and I'm qualified to get a booster shot. I'm scheduled, so Friday I'm getting my booster. That's all. So that's all. But I don't know anyone that died of the flu. I know lots of people died of the flu. I don't know anyone that's died of the flu. I had the flu my whole entire life growing up in Canada. That's fine. I don't need a flu shot. So there it is. Cool. Let me know if I'm right on Brainard. No, Elm, I said he could. It's sort of the worry of why is it taking so long? It was the why. And that I think they were thinking of it. How do we get out of this hole? And I think what they decided to do is tap the SPR. Bring down oil prices. But if he was fired, it would be that reason why, Elm. Okay? But Elm, I'll always side on the side of caution. Like, I very rarely say some crazy big thing's going to happen. I don't even think that way. But if it did happen, it would be for that. Somebody needed a fall guy. Okay. Oh, is that right? For Brainard, which vice chair though, Elm? Which one is it? The Banking Oversight Committee? I was very specific on that one. Well, nothing's right. I'm torn. So, anyways, this is all good, guys. This is risk on, as I communicated a half an hour ago. Okay. This is good. Now, there's lots of things that still are not ready, so you got to be careful if you're going to play this out. Let's take a look at the dollar pairs. And here, dollar strong, it's in between, but okay, but this is bearish, so that all makes sense. Okay. So it's interesting. The dollar's gaining strength, but the yen is losing, which is good. I want yens anyways, but it's kind of strange, right? So, like I'm almost interested in pound again. I'm not interested in Aussie yet. I'm not interested in Kiwi yet. I'm not interested in CAD yet. Brainard will be vice chair of the board. Yeah, I already knew that. But what subcommittee is she going to oversee? They're not mentioning that? Vice chair makes sense, but all right. I guess it's probably not even being reported, but yes, vice chair of the board of governors. Yeah. See, politically, that doesn't help anybody except we're maybe having more diversity on the board, but you're not going to, I mean, you could promote her just for that, but that doesn't make sense. She's smart. But what is she best known for? And that would be regulation over banks. And I mentioned that last week and the week before. So it makes sense that you would, when Elizabeth Warren is all pissed off about Powell, you say, well, at least we can put Brainard over the banks so that more regulation will happen on Wall Street and in the banking system. And she'll say, okay, well, but okay. Okay. Oh, am I a communist? Oh my God. Danny, I don't know if you know me that well. I'm the least communist there is. It's so funny. That's interesting, though. I'm a communist. I don't think you know me that well. We should get together and have a cigar and a cocktail, and you should get to know me before you label me. Oh, well, I certainly don't mean so. Now, what part is the communist part, Danny? Let me know. I must have misspoken. But what part of that? Okay. So let's look at commodities, right? Especially with your communist style censorship. I don't understand what you're talking about. But let me be more specific, and I'll be happy to address it. I don't even know what you're talking about. What's censorship? No. Jim, I'm trying to follow him, Jim. Let him go for a little while. Well, the interesting thing is I've, of course, studied the economics of it. And Marx actually is a good writer. Not that I agree with what he's saying, but it's well written. Okay, wow. Very few people have ever called me a communist, which is interesting. Okay. All right. So WTI, this is coming down hard, which makes sense. Remember, the big thing going on now is tapping the SPR, right? You've never seen a real communist. Well, if I was a communist, I'd be a fake communist, right? Anyways. But it's interesting. I don't know if Danny's trying to get the spotlight, or maybe I misspoke, and I'm happy to revisit that. All right, so as long as we're tapping the SPR, okay? Vodka's Russian, but not communist. I would imagine. Maybe you are, right? Oh, you're not Russian? Oh, okay. I have Russian friends. They're not communists. See, if you've lived through communism, you know how crappy it is. So, I know what I want to do. I don't know anyone that has lived under communism that said, you know what I need? I need more communism. Really, right? No, I know, no, I'm not slapping you. I'm wondering where it's going. Only the very old ones, yeah. Well, that time takes care of that. All right. Okay, so as long as SPRs are being tapped, now we got our third country. And remember, we're trying to deal with inflation. And you watch, if they actually do the tapping, and I think we'll learn this week, and we increase oil supply and oil prices come down, you watch, we're going to have less and less concern about inflation. Okay, so we are at key prices. That's for sure. Okay, like you look at that. So, like for example, if we were at normal supply versus demand, okay, we would probably look at this, and you would say, well, based on like a price, like because when you're doing supply versus demand, you're trying to find equilibrium price, where price has fallen enough that it will create demand. Or prices go too high and it destroys demand. Okay? So, is that what we have here? No, because what all of that means is that's demand shifting. Okay? So you got quantity, you got price. And remember, when you're looking at demand, what demand is telling you is as price falls, right, demand increases. See, if prices are high, quantity demanded is low. Remember, it's quantity demanded. Okay, it's a shift along the demand curve. Great. So prices can go up. Okay, so like let's say this is equilibrium. We're just looking at price. Okay, if prices go up, so now you have a move up here, quantity demanded will fall. Okay, and then what will happen? Prices will come back down and we will go back to equilibrium. But this isn't, so that's what normally is happening. Typically in this global economy, demand for energy is quite consistent and growing slightly, but you really do D-star and you fix demand and say, okay, demand is kind of fixed, and even if prices go up a bit, people will deal with it because they still need to turn the lights on. They still need to put gas in the car. And what might happen is if prices go up too much, you buy a more gas-efficient vehicle, or you take public transit or something, and you shift your sort of your purchases, but demand is going to be fixed, right? So that's normal. What I'm suggesting now is this doesn't have to hold like you would normally think, because this isn't a demand issue. Demand is high. Prices are not falling because demand is falling. No, because that would be what I'm describing in the chart below. Prices are not falling so that we can have an increase in demand. What's happening instead, quantity, okay, price, demand, okay? Instead, what's happening is the government is stepping in. Multiple governments are stepping in and increasing supply. And that drops prices from this equilibrium, okay, to, right? And actually, demand might not actually change, right? They're just in, but anyways, prices are coming down, and it's a supply side, it's unnatural. Okay? 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 So I'm like, so what does that mean? This will fall until we find the artificial equilibrium. And since the demand is constant or more consistent, right, then it really is like, when does the SPR get tapped? How much is released from the SPR? Who, like, how many countries tap their SPR? These are all I don't knows. But it's an exogenous supply shock in the sense that we're adding. Okay? And what will happen is we're also killing inflation. Okay? So interesting, right? So another way of saying this is your technical analysis is now going to be less reliable than normal. It's an additional risk. And someone might say, well, you know, if you sell at 80 or 81, you're going to take it down or whatever. Just be careful, because your algorithms don't have that priced in, the artificial supply issue. So normally what we're doing is, how much demand? Is demand going up? Is demand going down? Supply has had trouble keeping up, and therefore prices were high. Now we're getting artificial supply, and that's like somewhat indeterminate. Okay? Because we don't even know how much is going to be added to the SPR. So, cool. Okay, nat gas. Okay. This is an R1. This is an S1. Currently, we have an inside. All right, inside month. And what else do we know? Go to the 4H. Market is bearish and is creating lower highs. Okay, we're at support. Technical analysis would probably set something like this up for you. Okay, maybe Lucas, maybe. But what you'll see on top of that, Lucas, is that there's a seasonality to oil supply. And it's because there's a seasonality to oil demand. So at a point when oil reserves are going to kind of hit this trough, we're adding to it, right? At a time when oil supplies are likely to go up anyways. They're adding more. Because I think it's more political than anything. I think there's a lot of people scrambling going, kill inflation, kill inflation, kill inflation. So, I don't think it's so dramatic, the shortage of, well, maybe nat gas is different, but the shortage of crude oil and derivatives like gasoline and jet fuel, I don't know if it's crisis mode yet. Okay? And if you left it, typically, in the next 3 or 4 months, oil supplies start going up anyways. But I think people are walking around like, kill it now, do whatever you can. Increase oil supplies, bring down the price now. We don't care about seasonality. We don't care about this, right? We want a good Christmas. We want happy people. We don't want people bitching that it costs them an extra $12 to drive to grandma's house for Thanksgiving. Okay? You see what I mean? Data says, when central banks change one of its tools, does it mean that we are facing a new business cycle? We started the new business cycle 1.5 years ago. And I called it to the specific day. This is the new business cycle. So the answer to that is generally yes. I mean, it depends on what the new policy is, right? But for sure, that typically signals the top or a bottom, correct? Okay. So the last one was when the Fed said we will not go negative on rates, negative. Okay? That was the change. That was the beginning of the new business cycle. I think it was March 2020. Might have been April 2020. Which means that's the end of cutting. Okay? That's it. They will not cut further. That is the bottom. And I declared it the second it was released. Cool. So anyways, nat gas is falling. It makes sense to me. Okay, with nat gas, it might get interesting if or when Russia attacks the Ukraine. Because all of that is based on natural gas. Data says by quantitative easing. Yeah. But you have to understand the context of which and what it does. So the interest rates not falling further and quantitative easing both made me want to sell the dollar. See, cutting interest rates increases the value of the dollar. So no more cutting of interest rates would be no more dollar up. It's not really dollar down, just no more dollar up. The second part is, what does quantitative easing do? Quantitative easing lowers the value of the dollar because of the increase of supply. So when the Fed says they're no longer going to cut, that means dollar strength just went away. And then they announce quantitative easing. Well, now they just lowered the value of the dollar. Okay. Yes, Victor, and I mentioned that probably 3 weeks ago. Maybe 4 weeks ago. I said, get ready. Russia's going to take it. And it's a net gas issue, right? Who's next? Belarus? All you have to do is follow the natural gas pipelines out of Russia into Europe and look at all the countries those pipelines cross. Yeah. Okay. That's another negative thing happening to the Eurozone and thus a very weak euro. Okay, gold. Why is gold falling so hard and so fast? Because inflation is being addressed. No inflation, no gold. Okay? So, if we tap the SPR in the United States, China, and Japan, gold comes down because inflation comes down. Okay? Okay? So it always comes down to something like, is it going to fall forever? Oh, I don't know about that. But if you're a gold bug, you're going to want to try to find support technically. But you have to understand fundamentally, it's like, again, by the way, a week ago, right? More than a week ago, I very clearly broke down, maybe, I don't know if it was here, but definitely in the swing trading group and the day trading group, I broke down probably 7 different pieces of analysis that confirms that I believe inflation's transitory and that people are overreacting. And so now when I see gold coming down hard and oil coming down hard, I just kind of say, well, I told you so. Okay? Doesn't mean it's over, but it shows to me that it's transitory. Okay? So all I can say here is I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I do want you to do your own research and stop listening to the media. Never take financial advice from a journalist major. Okay? Right? An Ivy League journalist major. What does that mean? Their parents are rich. Who goes, right? Who spends $100,000 on an education so you can get a job that pays you $22,000 a year, right? So be careful where you take your financial advice, especially a YouTube guru like me. You're taking financial advice from me. Oh my God, what's wrong with you? Okay? Instead, I'd rather you do your own research so you can say, oh, yeah, I believe this or I believe that, and you make informed decisions. So my decision-making process, I clearly explained, gave 7 different reasons why I thought, based on my research, inflation was transitory. Okay? And sure as shit threw a goose. Right? It's coming down. Cool. All right. What do we know about Bitcoin? Well, if you were a buyer, you need to wake up. And if you're a seller, you can. Okay? If you're a seller, you can. Now, there's a bit of a jump here today, but look, you need to look at your, like, the standard operating procedure, right? Price action, remember? I love price action, which is great. So if you want to call it price action, if you want to call it market structure, if you want to call it Elliott wave, call it whatever you want it, right? Your customer says nobody goes to war in winter. Let's see. When did the Germans attack Russia in World War I and World War II? When did the French attack Russia under Napoleon and with using his grand army? You're like, dude, people attack Russia all the time. Now, to be fair, the Germans in World War II attacked in the summer. But it took them a little. They were a little bit late. They gathered a whole bunch of ground and they pushed their way to Moscow, which, dude, that was a mistake. And then they even bombed Moscow, right? They shelled Moscow. Shows you how far they got. And then winter hit, and that was it. They should have gone straight to Leningrad and straight to Stalingrad and just left Moscow. They went a bad angle. So if you're going to attack, you got to go fast, man. Okay. Yeah, well, Milo said September 1st, but it was supposed to be like a June-July attack, and then there were some delays and all that kind of stuff. And by the time, so in a week they took like 1,000 miles, but then you're stretched too thin, and then all that kind of stuff. And they're just I'm telling you, the Germans did make a few mistakes. Remember, the big thing too is they lost North Africa. Okay, why were the British even fighting in North Africa against the Germans? What was that all about? The Germans needed oil, right? No, you're talking about a different part of the war. But anyways. Right. And then Rommel lost North Africa, so the next push should have been straight to Leningrad. Sorry, I said it again. Stalingrad. But they decided to go political, and no, mistake. So anyways. All right, so Bitcoin, anyways. Yeah, so like your customer, when you're talking about that too, like what the problem was is they stretched themselves thin, they pushed north instead of south, and then by the time they got to Stalingrad, it was winter, and then they never took it. They should have taken Stalingrad in the summer, and then just created a fortress around that. Because remember, what they're trying to get to is Baku. It's not necessarily Stalingrad. They're trying to get to Baku. So, anyways. So if you're a buyer of Bitcoin, this is a buy zone. Buy zone. Okay. If you're going to use technical analysis, you're going to go mama, 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 mama. So that actually says, I don't know, let's call it 55. Stalingrad was a year after Moscow. That makes sense. But they lost too many resources, too many men. Because, yeah, they hit Moscow first, but then they got hit by winter. And then they had to try again. But see, you don't want to try, right? Right? You don't. Those are mistakes. Jim says that Russia invaded Finland. You know, so when I was in Helsinki, I crossed a bridge, and the bridge still had bullet, like, chips in the concrete, whatever you want to call it. Not holes, but chip, 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 chip. And what I was told were the Finns, right, left it there as a reminder. And I said, are you sure you're not just cheap? But the thing is, there's so much distrust between the Finns and the Russians, right? There's such a distrust that it's like, no, it's, yeah. Okay. TT says, do you think NASDAQ's overpriced? I told you it's coming down in January. So is it overpriced in the middle of November? No. It's going to be overpriced in January. And I have a powder keg of money, right? I have money ready to go into the stock market in January, but not November. Okay. Okay. Okay, I got to go. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. Would you please click the thumbs up as you go out? And I don't think I'm communist. I think I'm an entrepreneur. And I believe I'm a hardcore capitalist. Whether you like it or not, I probably lean more on capital than labor. Right? I don't... So anyways... So that's kind of interesting. So if I misspoke today and I sounded like a communist, all right, well, then I misspoke, and that can happen. If you spend 20 years on a microphone, at least an hour a day, once in a while, you don't communicate effectively. So if I did that, I apologize. But I'm a capitalist. Okay? I'm a capitalist. I've studied economics and economic history and political history and military history. I cannot find one example of socialism or communism working. And you might say, well, look at China, the second largest economy in the world. Oh, it's capitalist, dog. It's capitalist. Go back to communist, right? Yes, it's communist, but it's capitalist. Go back and look at it before it was capitalist. It was terrible. And I've been all over China, and I've spoken to all kinds of people all over China, from the governor of Sichuan all the way down to just my cab driver, the woman in the elevator, all that kind of stuff. I talk to everybody, and nobody says, oh, man, I miss the old days before capitalism. Not one person. Not one person. Never met a Cuban that says, you know what's wrong with America? It's not communist. I've never come across that way, right? If your borders are closed, you're bankrupt, right? Go to Dominican Republic. Hang out in a beautiful hotel, have drinks and smoke a cigar, live the life, swim around in your infinity pool at the beautiful hotel resort. Or if you want a cheaper price for your vacation, go to Haiti. Good luck with that. I'm a capitalist dog. I might be a pig dog, but I'm a capitalist pig dog. So peace on earth. May the pips be with you.